Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Car Insights. Second part of my discussion, mainly with Ken Goldin, because Paul, his 10-year-old son, had to go to baseball practice. He's a budding young slugger. And as you might expect with that pedigree, loving sports and being involved in that, Ken and I had a good chat after Paul had to go, talked about Ken's legacy through his dad and through the companies he's been associated with and how he's done some amazing stuff. So I've enjoyed knowing him since he was a young person, and nice to see him. I want everybody to do well. I believe we ought to look at life as not a zero-sum game, that someone's gain is my loss and vice versa. I want everybody to do well. Thanks, Ken, for working hard, bringing your energy and your drive and your promotion ability to this industry. So here it is. I'm wondering if I can encapsulate it this way. Did you create a persona, or did you allow a persona to be built around who you were? Because I'm thinking of myself in the same way, thought of as a persona, but I have a very different personality than you. But did you allow that to happen, or did you actively work toward that?
I was shy as a kid, and being in the business allowed me. I did a lot of cold calling. I make a big find. I would call people. I'd be 15, 16. I think the really big thing that happened to me was in 1989 when the president of QVCs told me, "We'd like you to go on the air." I'm like, "Why you like me to go on the air?" Because he came in our board meeting and convinced us to go into an entire new category. I think you'll be the person to explain to people what they're buying and why. So I think that being on TV so much and going so many interviews gave me the confidence, you could say the ego, to go out and be able to put myself out there. And I don't necessarily know if it is a persona. Like, one of the weirdest thing happened to me in like 2017, I started getting emails and direct messages from people who I didn't know. And they're saying, "Thanks for doing what you're doing. Thanks for leading the movement." What movement are they talking about? But that's the time modern cards started really taking off and the prices started going up. I was on major news channels talking about record prices. Forget COVID, forget 2020. It's like 2016, 2017. And the volume of cards grading kept going up and up. And I guess they looked at me as a pioneer in that regard. And that may be the persona that people created for me, is that I am, the investment guy. Like, I am the guy that's leading the charge to raise prices. I was trying to lead the charge to raise awareness and to grow my personal business. And I guess it became like I was the poster boy for modern cards. Actuality, I'm a vintage guy.
I actually know that, and I was observing this when it happened. So I'm totally tracking with it. 2016, 2017, around in there.
Mm-hmm.
This is my assessment of what you did. You took an auction industry that was established and they did what they did, and you unilaterally increased the expectations and estimates. And then, because your reputation was on the line, you went out and hit it so hard to promote to get those prices. Okay. Everybody else was saying, yeah, this is probably a $10,000 card. And you were saying, we're expecting to get 20,000. And then you went out and hit it super hard, talking it up, and you came through. That's your persona, is you overpromised and then over-delivered.
Yeah, at the time it was crazy.
That was just a certain time.
Yeah, it was.
And you went for it.
And the other thing is, I think an industry-changing event that new collectors do not know about because they weren't around. But in 2016, I got the chance to sell for the second time, the Jumbo Wagner. So I came up with this concept of the Great American Card Auction, is what I called it. 50 cards, and there were 49 vintage cards, all the traditional cards. So I had the Wagner, 52 Mantle, 51 Bowman Mantle. I had a 33 Ruth. I had everything. And then we had this 2003 Ultimate LeBron logo man. And the Wagner, of course, broke the record for the most valuable card ever sold at $3.2 million. But all the headlines were the fact I sold this LeBron James card for $312,000. And it just blew everybody's mind that a card issued 13 years ago sold. And that, to me, was the single most important in all of modern cards. I think all manufacturers a lot of money. I know I made all the grading companies a lot of money. The old regime at Beckett used to tell me, whenever you have a big sale, whoever that player is, the next week we know we're going to get flooded with that player's cards.
We enjoyed working with you, Ken, because you were business-minded and you thought big. And if you said you were going to do it, like I said, you'd overpromise, but then you'd overdeliver. We had some great deals we made over the years, over the decades, really. Think
100%.
Yeah.
Are you currently working in any capacity right now?
I'm trying not to. Do you count that? I do the stuff I want to do. I do pro bono consulting for my friends and friends of friends, several meetings a week, just doing that, just helping friends of friends, but no money changing hands. But I've got enough money and I actually have enough cards too, and trying to reduce my footprint of cards. I promised my wife I'd reduce 1% a month.
Okay, hit me up.
100 months. I'll hit you up on the 98th month. I'm not selling the good stuff till the last few months, but that's been a lot of fun. So I stayed busy enough. But my heart attack was 2 years after your dad's.
Mm-hmm.
And I was miraculously revived. For 40% of the people, their first symptom is sudden death. And I was blessed to be in the 60% where I barely got to the hospital in time and was revived in the hospital and a slow recuperation. I'm back, but I was a workaholic. I've got a new lease on life. So now I can go to a show. There's not a big long line of people that want to talk to me because I'm staying out of the fray. My old company, they've earned the right to do it the way they want to do it. I'm not in charge anymore. I answer their questions. I make a couple suggestions, but it's their show now. When I go to the national, I'm a free agent. I can talk to whoever I want to. I can do whatever I want to do. Back in the days with Mark Harwell, we just went from meeting to meeting. I could talk about the cards, but I never got to touch the cards. I never got to look at the cards. It was just editorializing about the cards and making big deals. I basically kicked myself upstairs to be an executive instead of a guy that enjoyed the chase. I enjoy buying cards and I enjoy sorting cards. And actually, you can make money buying as long as you eventually sell, but you don't make money sorting cards, but you're handling the cards and you're having fun. But I'm an old timer now.
I'm an old timer now. Anybody who started with cards before a single card was graded is an old timer, right? People ask me, what is the first pack you remember opening it as a kid? My answer is 1972 Topps. Now, I was only 6, but I remember opening them because Steve Carlton was traded to the Phillies, and I was a Phillies fan. So I wanted to find his first Phillies card in the traded series, the last edition. It's crazy to think of all the people, some not very well known to me, obviously due to my heart, Phil Spector.
Awesome guy. I'd really love doing a tribute to him because he was an unsung hero in this hobby. And scoreboard and your family and just so many.
I met Phil at a card show with my dad when I was 13. And he was Philadelphia Phil, even though he lived in Baltimore. If in the 80s, Alan Rosen was Mr. Mint, Phil Spector was Mr. VJ. But Phil had the stack of 63 Pete Rose cards. And he would sell me rookies for $5 each. But he would only do it. And this is when he lived in part-time and lived in Cherry Hill. He would only sell them to me one per visit. So I would literally make my dad take me back to his house every week until I probably had all of his Pete Rose cards. But when we started Scoreboard, he was the first employee. And even when Scoreboard got big and we were manufacturing cards and we had more classic cards and we're on QVC, we always kept that division, even though he may have contributed less than 1% to the annual, revenue of the company. We kept that division because it kept us in touch with where it was.
You're saying it was a division of one.
Yeah, it was
his own profit center. And for one guy, he did great. Now, just because your company got huge, it's not his fault. He was amazing.
Yes. And he'd marry Ann, and then he would come to me, can I get an assistant? Yes, you can get an assistant. And we had somebody else that at one point in time was a 3-person division.
But if people liked doing business with him, he also was a heart attack guy. So he had that in common as well. So he's very much missed. And when you have a company, you have a whole bunch of employees, there's a few that are really memorable.
Yep.
They're really memorable. And he was one of them.
Yes, he was.
Are you still collecting a little bit?
I have a complete T206 set minus Wagner. One of my favorite things, there's a couple threads on these boards. Who's starting up all of the N1012s, okay? And it's been me. I found a collection of these with my dad back probably in late 70s when they were worth nothing. And I always loved those cards. And for whatever reason, there was an auction and I guess I sold Cobb Wagner. I remember that card as a kid. So I didn't care what I paid. I just kept down a high bid and I won the card at auction. And I said, I got to get this complete set. So I've been putting together a complete M101-2 sporting set.
They're underappreciated just because of the size.
Yeah, 100%. No,
They're beautiful.
they're oversized. You can say the same thing about anything that's difficult. Same thing about T3s. Same thing about the cabinet cards. It's just anything's not standard size. The 14-year-old kid can't open up with their briefcase and take to a trade night is odd. But plus, I know everybody. When I was 10, 11, 12, I used to spend time reading and memorizing the baseball encyclopedia. And Jim, I got to tell you this because I don't think you've ever heard this one before. It's certainly not from me. When your first book came out, I memorized every single card and the prices from cover to the point that I would have friends come over and say, you don't know this book. You can't know this Sport America. I said, yes, this is private. And they'd turn to a page and they tell me a card. They say card number, blah, blah, blah. And I would tell them what the price was in the top condition. And I used to joke. I said, when it came time, people hitting 13, 14, they're going out on dates. I'm playing with my cards instead. But I guess it worked out well for me.
It works out in the end. And there is a fraternity of people who can do that. And the fraternity, apparently, it does include me because I can do it too.
Yep.
It includes you now. And it also probably includes Rich Klein.
Yep. Okay.
And that may be the extent of it.
Yeah, I don't want to say I can do it anymore. There's too many sets now. There's too many.
I can't do it anymore either. But back in the day, it was simpler in those days. It's gotten so complicated, and the ability to do a price guide, then you're looking at all the sales within that past month.
Yep.
And that's harder in one sense because now they just want to know what the last sale was. Yesterday's sale, and it hasn't had any time to see if that's typical or not. I feel sorry for anybody that's trying to track prices now because it's not whimsical. People think cards are fungible. They're really not. You don't talk about the holder. You talk about the card and the holder and any other extenuating circumstances that can enhance the appeal of that particular card. Forget whether the previous PSA 10 that might not have looked as good sold. Whatever. So you have the ability to, like I say, to embellish, back it up.
You can't base a trend off one sale, either a good sale or a bad sale. If something's a one of a kind or comes up every couple of years, I get it. But for stuff that trades often, if something is X number of standard deviations above the norm, you can't say this is the new level, whether higher or lower. I say you have to see, especially with some of the newer cards and newer people, just because you have a sale of player X in a 9 at this level, you can't assume that all 9s are worth that. And you can't assume that represents a 50% jump that's going to hold. I think you need repetitiveness. You need to see what happens the next time and the next time that happens. And that is both on the higher level as well as the lower level. I tell people, don't go out and do your shopping based on one comp.
You're being the voice of reason. That sounds great. I like to be the voice of reason too, but people don't want to hear the voice of reason. They want to hear this is going to be the next greatest thing that the card ticked up, so it's going up, just like the arrows in the magazine. The arrow meant that it went up, and a lot of trends continue in our hobby, especially in a bull market. But now, very much in a mixed market, there's certain things that are going to keep going up and certain waffle a little bit and certain going down. And if you're not tuned into the market, and it sounded like your son Paul is good kid, like you're joking about, he's aware of their contracts and the way they're viewed as a general manager. In Bowman Draft, you've got to be your own kind of a general manager, not just betting I'm going to sell after they get called up. This is a player. You're supposed to buy the card or the player, not the slab. But they're not even doing that. They're buying the type of card. They think, oh, this is a rookie quarterback. Therefore, it has potential if the guy's no good.
Well, one thing I'll tell everybody, if you enjoy collectibles, King of Collectibles, The Golden Touch, new season is now out on Netflix. 8 new episodes. Love chatting with you. Love reminiscing. And happy to do it anytime.
You're promoting the whole hobby. People think you're promoting yourself. Duh. I promoted myself too, but in the process, we're promoting the whole hobby. And now hopefully that rising tide raises all boats. You've helped every auction company.
100%.
So
I definitely agree with that.
I've had that same attitude. Anyway, Ken, good to visit with you. I'll see you at the National for sure.
Sounds great to me, Jim. Thank you so much.